The Imperial delegation returned to the capital 3 days later. High Chancellor Morthax called another emergency council session the moment they arrived. The Grand Chamber filled quickly. Everyone wanted to hear what Ambassador Kil Shen had learned. She stood before the council and delivered her report. Every detail. The massive stations. The advanced technology. The medical miracles. The defensive capabilities. The philosophy that drove humanity forward. When she finished, silence dominated the chamber. Supreme General Thraknor was the first to speak. His voice shook with anger. This is worse than we feared. They're not just survivors. They're a threat to everything the Empire has built. They offered peace, Kyle Shen reminded him. On their terms, Thraknor shot back. They want recognition as equals. They want trade access. They want us to simply accept that they exist and move forward. But don't you see what this means? If other species learn that humanity survived our purge, they'll start asking questions. What else has the Empire lied about? Who else might have escaped? Our authority will crumble. Economic Advisor Pelkin raised a tentacle. There's another consideration. If human technology enters our markets, it will revolutionize everything. Ships that build themselves in days, medical treatments that eliminate disease, energy systems that never fail. Our entire economy is based on scarcity and labor. What happens when those factors disappear? Progress happens, Kyle Shen said firmly. Our people could live longer, healthier lives. We could build things we've only dreamed of. Yes, it would disrupt our economy, but is that a reason to reject peace? It's a reason to be cautious, Pelkin replied. Economic collapse could destabilize the entire empire. We're talking about trillions of citizens whose livelihoods depend on the current system. Morthax listened to the arguments carefully. He had ruled the empire for 40 years. He understood politics. He understood power. And he understood fear. The council was afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing control. An intelligence report arrived during the debate. The intelligence chief, a shadowy figure named Vexital, presented it with obvious reluctance. We've confirmed something disturbing, Vexital said. The humans possess a weapon they call the Cascade Protocol. Our analysts believe it's a device capable of destabilizing stars, creating supernovas on demand. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices overlapped. Panic spread through the council. Silence, Morthax commanded. When order returned, he addressed Vexital directly. How many of these devices do they have? We don't know exactly, but our intelligence suggests they've distributed them throughout the Empire's core sectors. Hidden, waiting. If humanity falls, the devices activate automatically. Dozens of our most important systems would be destroyed. Mutual destruction, Morthax said quietly. They've ensured we can't attack them without destroying ourselves. It's brilliant, Kyle Shen admitted, though she looked sick. Horrible, but brilliant. They've made it impossible for us to wage war without committing suicide. The debate raged for hours. 3 factions emerged. The military hardliners wanted war despite the risks. They believed the Empire couldn't show weakness. The isolationists wanted to seal off Sector 47 Omega and pretend humanity didn't exist. The pragmatists, led by Kyle Shen, argued for accepting the human proposal and adapting to the new reality. During a recess, Morthax met privately with Commander Velthar. The military officer had been quiet during the council session. You've seen them up close, Morthax said. What do you think? Velthar chose his words carefully. I think they mean what they say. They don't want war, but they're prepared for it. I've run tactical simulations using the data we gathered. In every scenario we lose. Even without their star-killing devices, they can disable our fleets faster than we can deploy them. So war is not an option. War is suicide, Velthar corrected. They've had 3,000 years to prepare for this exact situation. We're not ready to face them. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening. An Imperial spy named Rin had managed to infiltrate human territory weeks earlier. She had been sending reports back, but they had been ignored in the chaos of discovery. Now her latest message reached Morthax's private channels. Rin had been captured. But instead of execution, the humans treated her as a guest. An engineer named Young Ho showed her around their facilities.
He explained their technology.
He answered her questions. He even joked with her. They knew I was a spy from the moment I arrived, Rin reported. They let me see everything because they want the Empire to understand. This isn't a bluff. Everything they showed the delegation is real. But there's more. The people here are happy. They don't live in fear. They don't serve an empire. They live for themselves, for their families, for their communities. I've never seen anything like it. Her final words struck Morthax deeply. They don't hate us, Chancellor. They pity us. The council reconvened for a final vote. 3 options were presented formally: war, peace, isolation. Each council member would cast their vote. But everyone knew it would be close. The military faction voted for war. 15 voices called for humanity's destruction. Consequences be damned. They believed showing weakness would doom the empire more surely than any weapon. The isolationists voted to seal the sector. 12 voices wanted to pretend humanity didn't exist, build a wall around Sector 47 Omega and never speak of it again. The pragmatists voted for peace. 13 voices argued for accepting reality and adapting. They believed the empire could survive change, but not war. The council was deadlocked. 40 votes cast, but no clear majority. According to imperial law, the High Chancellor would cast the deciding vote in such circumstances. Morthax stood. Every eye in the chamber focused on him. The choice he made would define the empire's future. War meant destruction. Isolation meant stagnation. Peace meant uncertainty. He thought about the reports, the technology, the philosophy, the humans who had survived impossible odds. He thought about Rin's words. They pity us. The empire had ruled through fear for 10,000 years, but fear was a brittle foundation. It worked until something stronger came along, and humanity had proven themselves stronger, not through military might alone, but through will, through adaptation, through refusing to die. I vote for peace, Morthax said clearly. The chamber exploded with reactions. Thraknor roared in fury. Kilshan sagged with relief. Pelkan looked terrified, but the decision was made. The empire has survived 10,000 years by being adaptable, Morthax continued, his voice carrying over the chaos. We have conquered when conquest was needed. We have negotiated when negotiation was needed. And now we must evolve when evolution is needed. He looked at Thraknor directly. These humans represent something we haven't seen before. They're not a lesser civilization begging for mercy. They're not a rival empire seeking dominance. They're survivors who built something remarkable from the ashes of our cruelty. We can resist them and perish, or we can embrace them and grow stronger. You're condemning us, Thraknor growled. I'm saving us, Morthax replied. From our own rigid thinking. From our inability to see past our old ways. The universe is changing, General. We can change with it or be left behind. The vote was recorded. Peace. The Empire would accept humanity's terms. Ambassadors would return to Haven's Rest to negotiate a formal treaty. The galaxy was about to shift in ways no one could fully predict. That night, Morthax stood in his private chambers looking at the stars. He had made the most important decision of his rule. Future generations would judge whether it was the right one, but he believed in his choice. The Empire needed this, not just to survive, but to remember what it meant to grow. Chief Scientist Bora stood and gestured toward the door. Words can only explain so much, she said. Perhaps you would like to see what we've built. Ambassador Kilshan agreed immediately. Understanding the humans meant understanding their capabilities. The Council seemed to expect this. They had prepared a tour. The first stop was a massive manufacturing facility. Through transparent walls, the Imperial delegation watched as machines assembled components at incredible speed. What caught Kilshan's attention wasn't the speed, but the scale. Entire starship hulls were being constructed in a matter of hours. This is our primary fabrication center, Bora explained. We use quantum assembly techniques. Matter is arranged at the atomic level according to precise specifications. What takes your empire months to build, we complete in days. Impossible, one of the military escorts whispered. The energy requirements alone would require fusion reactors operating at 98% efficiency, Bora finished. Which we have. Along with zero-point energy collectors that draw power from quantum fluctuations in space itself. We haven't had an energy crisis in 400 years. They moved to the next facility. This one was different. Screens covered every wall, showing tactical displays and defensive positions. Hundreds of humans worked at stations monitoring everything. Our defense network, Fleet Admiral Tae Yang explained. Every station, every ship, every defensive satellite is connected through quantum-entangled communication. Information travels instantaneously. If one section detects a threat, every other section knows immediately. But that's not all. General Haywan added with a slight smile. Show them the simulation. A holographic display activated. It showed 3 Imperial warships approaching a single human frigate. The scenario played out. The Imperial ships opened fire. Before their weapons reached the human vessel, it released an electromagnetic pulse. All 3 Imperial ships went dark. Their systems crashed. Their weapons stopped working. Then the human ship did something remarkable. It hacked into the Imperial vessel's computers, taking control of their navigation systems. Within 90 seconds, all 3 ships were helpless. We don't need to destroy enemy vessels, Taeyang said calmly. We can simply take control of them. Your encryption is good, but we've had 3,000 years to study it. We can break into any Imperial system in under a minute. Kelshin felt sick. The Empire's military advantage had always been overwhelming force. But force meant nothing if your ships could be turned off like light switches. The next stop was a medical facility. Here, Bora's pride was obvious. This is what I'm most proud of, she said softly. The facility was clean and filled with soft light. Humans of all ages received treatment, but what shocked the delegation was a demonstration. Bora showed them a patient who had suffered severe injuries in an industrial accident. Burns covered half his body. This happened 3 days ago, Bora explained. She activated the patient's medical file. Watch, the hologram showed the man's recovery. The burns healed at an accelerated rate. New skin grew, damaged organs regenerated. Within 72 hours, he was completely recovered. No scars. No permanent damage, we call it bioregeneration, Bora said. Nanotechnology combined with genetic therapy. We can repair almost any injury. We've cured every disease known to humanity. We've even extended the average human lifespan to over 200 years. You've conquered death, Velthar said in awe. Not conquered, Bora corrected gently. Extended. Everyone still dies eventually, but not from disease or injury. Not unless they choose to. The final stop was a warehouse, except it wasn't exactly a warehouse. It was a room with a single door. When they entered, the space inside was enormous, far larger than should have been possible given the exterior dimensions. Dimensional storage, Bora explained. We can create pocket dimensions for storing resources. This single room contains enough food to feed our entire population for 10 years. We have dozens of these facilities throughout our territories. Kyle Shen tried to process everything she'd seen. The technology was beyond anything the Empire possessed. The humans had leapfrogged thousands of years of development in the time they'd been hiding. They returned to the council chamber. High Commissioner Jiwoo offered them seats and refreshments. The atmosphere had shifted. The humans weren't showing off. They were making a point. Do you understand now? Jiwoo asked. Do you see why we're not afraid of your empire? Yes, Kyle Shen admitted. Your technology is far beyond ours. Technology is only part of it, Jiwoo replied. The real difference is philosophy. Your empire conquered through fear. You found weaker civilizations and crushed them. You built your power on the backs of others. She gestured around them. We built our power through necessity. Every generation born in exile knew that our survival depended on being better, smarter, more creative. We couldn't rely on military might alone. We had to innovate constantly or die. Captain Daehyun, who had been silent until now, spoke up. While you were comfortable in your empire, we were desperate. Desperation is an incredible motivator. We've been watching you, Taeyang added, for 3,000 years. We know your military strategies. We know your economic systems. We know your political structures. We know your weaknesses better than you do. The words weren't said with cruelty, just stating facts. The humans had made a science of studying their enemy. Keelshen was granted permission to walk among the civilian population. Captain Daehyun served as her escort. They visited a school where a teacher named Yoon-soo taught children about Earth, the lost homeworld. The children asked Keelshen questions about the Empire. Not angry questions, just curious. They wanted to know what life was like for other species. They visited an engineering facility where a man named Young Ho designed quantum reactors. He showed Keelshen his latest project with genuine enthusiasm. He loved his work. He wanted to make things better. The Empire was just an abstract concept to him. They visited an art gallery where a woman named Hyojin displayed paintings. Her work depicted Earth as she imagined it, beautiful landscapes that no living human had ever seen with their own eyes. Yet the longing in every brushstroke was obvious. What struck Kalshan most was the absence of hatred. These people knew the Empire had tried to exterminate their species. Yet they didn't hate. They felt pity. They saw the Empire as a civilization that had stopped growing, stopped evolving. They saw stagnation where there should have been progress. That night, the Council made their proposal. Jiwoo laid it out simply. We want recognition as a sovereign nation. We want access to trade routes. We want a non-aggression treaty. In exchange, we'll share some of our medical technology with the Empire. We'll help you modernize your infrastructure. We'll even establish cultural exchange programs. And if we refuse? Kilshan had to ask. General Haewon's expression hardened. Then we defend ourselves. Make no mistake, Ambassador. We don't want war, but we're not afraid of it either.
If the Empire attacks, we will fight back.
And you will lose. It wasn't a boast. It was a simple statement of fact. How can you be so certain? Velthar asked. Jiwoo stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars. Because we've already survived the worst thing you could do to us. You tried to exterminate us once. You failed. We've spent 3,000 years making sure you could never succeed if you tried again. She turned back to face them. Your empire has been comfortable for too long. Comfortable civilizations don't innovate. They don't adapt. They become rigid, fragile. We are not fragile, Ambassador. We are the survivors of genocide. We are humanity, and we will never be victims again. The news reached the imperial capital within hours. High Chancellor Morthak sat in his private chambers reading the report for the third time. Each word seemed more impossible than the last. Humans. Alive. Thriving. Hidden for nearly 3 millennia in a sector everyone believed was deadly. He called an emergency council meeting. Within the hour, every major leader in the Dominion gathered in the Grand Chamber. Military commanders, economic advisors, planetary governors, and intelligence chiefs all wanted answers to the same question. How could an entire civilization hide from the Empire? This changes everything, Supreme General Thraknor growled. He was a massive creature with scales and 4 arms, each one strong enough to crush steel. If humans survived, they did so with purpose. They've been planning, preparing. We must strike immediately before they attack us. We don't know their intentions, Morthak said calmly. Perhaps they simply want to be left alone. They disabled an Imperial vessel without effort, Thraknor countered. That's not the action of a species that wants peace. Before the argument could escalate, a message arrived. It was transmitted directly to the council chamber on Imperial frequencies that should have been impossible for anyone outside the government to access. The humans not only knew where to send it, but had broken Imperial encryption to do so. The message was simple. An invitation. The humans wanted to meet. They proposed a diplomatic summit on their capital station, Haven's Rest. They promised safe passage. They asked the Empire to send ambassadors who could speak with authority. It's a trap, Thraknor insisted. Possibly, Morthax agreed. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. If they wanted us dead, they could have destroyed Commander Velthar's ship. Instead, they sent an invitation. The council debated for hours. Finally, Morthax made his decision. They would send a delegation. Ambassador Kelshin would lead it. She was the Empire's best negotiator, known for her ability to stay calm in any situation. Commander Velthar would accompany her since he had already made contact. A military escort would come along, though they were ordered to come unarmed as the humans requested. 3 days later, the Imperial delegation arrived at the coordinates the humans provided. What they saw took their breath away. Haven's Rest was enormous. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. It rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity through centrifugal force. Lights dotted its surface like stars. Thousands of smaller vessels moved around it in organized patterns. The architecture was elegant and efficient, nothing like the brutal, imposing designs the Empire favored. By the ancestors, Kyle Shen whispered.
How did they build something this large without us knowing?
Very carefully, Velthar replied, and very quietly. A human shuttle approached their vessel. Captain Dae-Hyun appeared on screen again, offering them a polite greeting. The shuttle docked, and an honor guard escorted the Imperial delegation inside. Walking through Haven's Rest felt like visiting another universe. Gardens grew under artificial sunlight. Markets bustled with activity. Children played in parks suspended in the air through magnetic fields. Millions of humans lived here going about their daily lives as if the empire didn't exist at all. "This is impossible," one of the military escorts muttered. "The resources needed to build this are significant," a voice agreed. They turned to see a human woman approaching. She was tall with sharp eyes and gray hair tied back in a practical style. "I'm High Commissioner Jiwoo. Welcome to Haven's Rest. Please follow me. The council is waiting." The council chamber was a large circular room with windows looking out into space. 5 humans sat at a curved table. Jiwoo took her seat at the center. To her right sat a man in a military uniform covered in medals. To her left, a stern woman with scars on her face and a younger woman with kind eyes who wore a scientist's insignia. "I am High Commissioner Jiwoo," the woman said formally. "This is Fleet Admiral Taeyang, General Haewon, and Chief Scientist Bo-ra. We lead the free human territories. We've been expecting you." Kyle-shin stepped forward. She had negotiated with hundreds of species, but something about this moment felt different. These humans weren't asking for mercy or offering surrender. They sat as equals, as if the Empire had no power here. "I am Ambassador Kyle-shin of the Galactic Dominion," she said. "We come seeking understanding. Our records indicate that humanity was destroyed 2,800 years ago. Yet here you are. Your records are incomplete," Jiwoo replied. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth as it had been before the Great Purge. Beautiful, blue and green, alive. "When your armada approached our homeworld, we knew what was coming," Jiwoo continued. "Your empire had a pattern. Any species you deemed dangerous was eliminated. We were next on the list." The hologram changed, showing massive ships moving toward Earth, the same ships that had destroyed a dozen other civilizations. But humanity had one advantage. Bo-ra spoke up, her voice gentle but firm. "We're stubborn, and we're very good at solving impossible problems when survival depends on it." The hologram showed something incredible. Deep beneath Earth's surface, enormous tunnels were being built, faster than light gates that could move billions of people across the galaxy in moments. "We built these in secret," Bo-ra explained. "It took every resource we had. Every scientist, every engineer, every willing volunteer worked around the clock for 6 years. We called it the Exodus Project. We evacuated Earth," Jiwoo said. "Not everyone.
We couldn't save them all.
But we saved billions. And we made sure your empire thought we were destroyed." The hologram showed Earth's final moments. Massive weapons firing, the planet appearing to crack apart. Debris spreading through space. "That was staged," Taeyang said. His voice was hard. "We set up the explosion to look like planetary destruction. We used every trick we knew to create false readings, and then we disappeared into Sector 47 Omega. The dead zone," Velthar said quietly. "You made it appear uninhabitable." "Yes," Jiwoo confirmed. "We deployed technology that disrupted sensors. We made the region appear deadly. Any ship that got too close we scared away with false readings or equipment malfunctions. For hundreds of years we stayed hidden, building, growing, preparing." "Preparing for what?" Kyle-shin asked, though she feared she knew the answer. "For the day we might need to defend ourselves again," General Haewon said. Her voice was cold. "For the day the Empire might find us and try to finish what they started." Silence filled the room. The weight of what the humans had accomplished settled over everyone. They had survived genocide. They had hidden an entire civilization. And they had done it all while watching the Empire, learning from it, waiting. "So here we are," Jiwoo said. She leaned forward, her eyes meeting Kyle-shin's directly. "Now comes the important question, Ambassador. Why should we not destroy you?" The question hung in the air. Kyle-shin realized with growing certainty that these humans could do exactly that. They had the technology. They had the will. They had 3,000 years of reasons to want revenge. "Because," Kyle-shin said carefully, "perhaps we can find a better path forward. For both our peoples." Jiwoo smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Perhaps. Let us see if that's true." The Imperial Survey Fleet had been scanning dead space for 3 months. Commander Velthar sat in his chair on the bridge of the Eternal Judgment, watching the same empty readings he had seen for weeks. The Galactic Dominion controlled everything in the known universe. Every star system, every planet, every species that still existed served under their rule. For 10,000 years, the Empire had been the only power that mattered. Sector 47 Omega was different. The records called it the Dead Zone. 3,000 years ago, Imperial scouts had marked it as uninhabitable. Something about the region destroyed sensors and made navigation impossible. Ships that ventured too deep never came back. Eventually, the Empire simply drew a line around it on their maps and forgot about it. There were plenty of other worlds to conquer. Velthar was reviewing supply reports when the alarm sounded. His science officer, a thin creature with 6 arms named Kresh, looked up from his station with confusion on his face. "Commander, I'm detecting something unusual," Kresh said, his voice uncertain. "Define unusual," Velthar replied, setting down his data pad. "Energy signatures, massive ones, coming from inside the dead zone." That got Velthar's attention. He stood and walked to the sensor station. The screen showed something that shouldn't exist. Dozens of energy readings, all of them indicating active technology. "Not natural phenomena. Artificial constructs. That's impossible," Velthar said. "There's nothing out there. The zone has been dead for millennia." "The readings are clear, Commander. Someone built something in there. Something big." Velthar felt a chill run down his spine. The Empire's rules were clear. All survey ships were forbidden from entering Sector 47 Omega. But the readings showed technology that rivaled anything the Dominion possessed. If another civilization had somehow hidden in the dead zone, the High Chancellor needed to know immediately. "Take us in," Velthar ordered. "Slow approach. Keep all sensors active." The Eternal Judgment turned and began moving toward the restricted sector. As they crossed the boundary, something strange happened. The sensor interference that had plagued ships for thousands of years simply vanished. The screens came alive with clear, perfect readings, and what those readings showed made every crew member on the bridge go silent. Space stations, hundreds of them. Massive orbital platforms surrounded by smaller vessels. Planetary colonies with lights visible on the night sides. Defensive satellites arranged in perfect geometric patterns. A civilization. A thriving, advanced civilization that nobody knew existed. "Get me detailed scans of everything," Velthar commanded. His hands were shaking. "And find out who built this." Kresh worked frantically at his station, pulling data from every sensor array. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the science officer looked up, his 6 eyes wide with what could only be described as fear. "Commander, the architectural patterns match only one known civilization in the Imperial archives." "Which one?" "Human." The word hit the bridge like a physical blow. Several crew members gasped. One of the junior officers actually took a step backward. "That's impossible," Velthar said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Humans are extinct. We destroyed their homeworld 2,800 years ago." "The computer confirms it," Kresh insisted. "The construction methods, the technology signatures, even the mathematical principles in the station designs. All human." Velthar's mind raced. The Great Purge had been one of the Empire's most ruthless campaigns. Humanity had been deemed too dangerous to exist. Too creative, too unpredictable, too willing to question authority. The Imperial Armada had surrounded Earth and bombarded it until the entire planet cracked apart. Billions of humans died in a single day. The Empire had made certain no survivors escaped, or so they thought. "Move us closer to the nearest station," Velthar ordered. "I want detailed scans of their technology." And tried it. The ship lurched violently. Every screen on the bridge went dark. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. Velthar grabbed his chair to keep from falling. "Report," he shouted. "All systems offline," his engineering officer called out. "Something hit us with an electromagnetic pulse. Weapons are dead. Engines are dead. Even backup power is struggling." "That's impossible," Velthar said. "Our shields should have—" A new screen flickered to life. It showed a face. A human face. The man looked to be in his 30s with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a uniform that Velthar didn't recognize, but the insignia on his shoulder clearly indicated military rank. "This is Captain Dae-hyun of the Free Human Territories," the man said in perfect galactic standard. His voice was polite but firm. "You have entered restricted space without authorization. Your vessel has been disabled as a defensive measure." Velthar found his voice. "I am Commander Velthar of the Imperial Survey Fleet. We know who you are," Dae-hyun interrupted. "We've been monitoring your approach for the past 6 hours. We disabled your ship the moment you began active scanning of our facilities. You've been watching us?" Velthar felt foolish for asking. Of course they had been watching. These humans had hidden an entire civilization from the Empire for thousands of years. They knew exactly what they were doing. Power down all weapon systems and prepare to be boarded, Daehyun continued. You and your senior staff will be taken to Haven's Rest for questioning. Resist and we will destroy your ship. You have 30 seconds to comply. The screen went dark. Velthar stood frozen. His entire worldview had just shattered. Humans weren't extinct. They had survived. More than survived. They had built something incredible while hiding in a sector of space the Empire had abandoned as worthless. Commander? Kresh asked quietly. What do we do? Velthar looked around his bridge. His crew was scared. They had every right to be. The Empire had tried to exterminate humanity, and now humanity had found them helpless and powerless. Stand down all weapons, Velthar said. Send a message back to Imperial Command. Tell them everything. And tell them that we found something impossible. What did we find, sir? Velthar looked at the dark screen where the human captain's face had been moments before. He thought about the massive stations, the advanced technology, the perfect defensive response. He thought about what it meant that humanity had not only survived but thrived in secret for 3,000 years. We found humans, Velthar said quietly, and they've been waiting for us. The news spread across the galaxy within days. The Galactic Dominion, the empire that had ruled for 10,000 years, had discovered a surviving human civilization. More shocking still, they had chosen peace. Not everyone celebrated the decision. Supreme General Thraknor resigned his position in protest. Dozens of military commanders followed him. Some colony worlds expressed outrage. How could the Empire negotiate with a species they had tried to exterminate? But High Chancellor Morthax stood firm. The decision was made. 3 months later, representatives from both civilizations gathered at Haven's Rest for the official treaty signing. The ceremony took place in a grand hall that the humans built specifically for the occasion. Windows on all sides showed the stars, a reminder that the galaxy was watching. High Commissioner Jiwoo stood on one side of a simple table. High Chancellor Morthax stood on the other. Between them lay a document that would reshape galactic politics forever. The Treaty of Haven's Rest. 20 pages of carefully negotiated terms. The treaty recognized the free human territories as a sovereign nation. Humans would have full access to imperial trade routes. Both sides agreed to a non-aggression pact lasting 100 years. Most importantly, humanity agreed to share specific technologies with the Empire, medical advancements that could extend lifespans, energy systems that were cleaner and more efficient, manufacturing techniques that would reduce costs and increase quality. This treaty represents more than an agreement between governments, Jiwoo said during her speech. It represents a choice to look forward instead of backward, to build instead of destroy, to grow instead of stagnate. Morthax nodded. The Empire has much to learn from humanity. We allowed ourselves to become rigid, comfortable. We forgot that true strength comes not from controlling others but from constant improvement. Today we take the first step toward remembering. They signed the document together. Holographic images broadcast the moment across thousands of worlds. Some viewers cheered, others protested. But everyone understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The cultural exchange began immediately. Human teachers traveled to Imperial worlds sharing knowledge. Teacher Yunsu found herself in a classroom on the capital world, teaching young Imperial citizens about Earth's history. She spoke of the oceans and forests that most humans had never seen. The children listened with fascination. Will we ever see Earth? One young student asked. Perhaps, Yunsu replied with a gentle smile. Perhaps someday we all will. Engineers like Young Ho worked with Imperial scientists to upgrade their infrastructure. The first project was a joint fusion reactor that would power an entire sector. Young Ho found himself explaining concepts that seemed basic to humans, but revolutionary to their new partners. You must understand, he told an Imperial engineering team. Technology is not magic. It's just problem solving. When you face a challenge, you break it into smaller pieces and solve each piece. Then you put the solutions together. The Imperial engineers struggled at first. They were used to following established procedures. Innovation made them nervous. But slowly they began to understand. They started suggesting ideas, testing theories, thinking differently. Artist Hyojin held exhibitions on multiple worlds. Her paintings of Earth touched something deep in many species, the longing for a place lost, the hope for something better. One painting in particular became famous. It showed humans and aliens working together to build a structure in space.
She called it Building Tomorrow. The medical technology created the biggest immediate impact.
Human doctors traveled throughout the empire, teaching new techniques. Diseases that had plagued species for centuries disappeared within months. Life expectancies doubled, then tripled for some populations. People who had been dying were suddenly healthy. Not everyone welcomed the changes. Economic disruptions happened exactly as predicted. Entire industries became obsolete overnight. Workers who had spent their lives in manufacturing found their skills no longer needed when machines could assemble things in hours. Some planets experienced riots. Others saw political upheaval, but slowly adaptation happened. New industries emerged. Education programs helped workers learn new skills. The economy shifted from scarcity-based to abundance-based. It was painful. It was messy, but it was progress. 5 years after the treaty signing, High Commissioner Ji-woo made an announcement that shocked everyone. Humanity was revealing Earth's location. The lost homeworld wasn't destroyed. It was preserved. We left Earth intact, Ji-woo explained during a galaxy-wide broadcast. Automated systems have maintained it for 3,000 years. It's a memorial, a reminder of what we lost and what we survived. And now we invite the galaxy to visit, to see where humanity came from, to understand our story. Morthax was among the first visitors. Ji-woo personally escorted him to Earth's surface. They stood on a hillside overlooking an ocean. Wind carried the smell of salt water. Birds flew overhead. The planet was beautiful, empty of humans but alive with nature. Your people staged all of this being destroyed, Morthax said quietly. We did what we had to do to survive. Ji-woo replied. We're not proud of the deception, but we're not ashamed either. Survival is not a sin. No, Morthax agreed. It's not. And you've taught us something valuable. You've shown us that strength comes in many forms. The Empire thought strength was military power, but you've shown us that the greatest strength is the refusal to surrender, to keep building even when everything is taken from you. They stood in silence watching the waves. Two leaders from different civilizations, different backgrounds, different histories. But in that moment they shared an understanding. What's next for humanity? Morthax asked. Ji-woo smiled. What's next for all of us, you mean? We're in this together now. The future belongs to cooperation, not domination, to growth, not conquest. Meanwhile, a secret meeting took place on Haven's Rest. Fleet Admiral Tae Yang gathered with General Haiwan and Chief Scientist Bo-Ra. They discussed something they had kept hidden even from most humans. The Cascade Protocol. Should we tell them the truth? Haiwan asked. What truth? Tae Yang replied with a slight smile. That the devices were never fully functional. That we only completed about 30% of the necessary components. It was a psychological weapon, Bo-Ra confirmed. The threat alone was enough. The Empire believed we could destroy their core systems. That belief prevented war. Mission accomplished. So we bluffed, Haiwan said. We convinced the most powerful empire in the galaxy that we could destroy them, using devices that never actually worked. The best weapon is the one you never have to use, Tae Yang quoted. Sun Tzu said that thousands of years ago. Still true today. They agreed to keep the secret. The Empire didn't need to know. The threat had served its purpose. Peace was achieved. That was what mattered. 50 years passed. The galaxy transformed. The Empire evolved from a dominating force into a cooperative union. Dozens of other civilizations followed humanity's example, pushing for more autonomy and better treatment. The Dominion adapted, or it would have fallen. It adapted. Commander Velthar, now an old man, returned to Haven's Rest one final time. He had retired from military service decades ago. He came as a private citizen, wanting to see how the station had changed. It was enormous now. 3 times the size it had been during his first visit. Millions more inhabitants. But what struck him most was the diversity. Humans, yes, but also dozens of other species, all living together, working together, building together. He visited an art gallery and found himself staring at a painting. It showed a massive space station under construction. Humans and aliens work side by side, assembling the structure piece by piece. The caption read, "From Ashes Unity." The artist was there. Not Hyojin, but her granddaughter, who had inherited her talent. She approached Velthar with a warm smile. "Do you like it?" she asked. It's beautiful, Velthar said honestly. What does it represent? Hope, she replied simply. My grandmother painted Earth as she imagined it. I paint the future as I hope it will be. A future where what we've lost makes us stronger, where survival isn't just about living but about thriving together. Velthar felt tears in his eyes. He had been there at the beginning. He had seen the fear and confusion when humanity was discovered. He had watched the galaxy transform, and now at the end of his life he understood. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't their technology. It wasn't their survival. It was their refusal to let destruction define them. They could have spent 3,000 years planning revenge. Instead, they spent it building something better. When given the chance to destroy their enemies, they chose to offer peace. That was true strength. Not the ability to hurt others, but the wisdom to choose a better path. Velthar left the gallery and walked through Haven's Rest one last time. He saw children playing human and alien together. He saw merchants trading goods from across the galaxy. He saw couples of different species walking hand in hand. He saw hope made real. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how it should be.